With his blink and you'll miss it return to Britain already fading from public memory, even Prince Harry must realize he's no longer the royal pinup he once was. In the aftermath of his one Platinum Jubilee appearance, in which he was booed on the steps of St. Paul's, a recent YouGov poll showed almost two-thirds of Britons have a negative perception of him. So what next? Facing that level of resistance, Harry must be asking himself whether it's worth the expense of keeping on Frogmore Cottage when the chances of relocating full-time to Britain look bleaker by the minute. One possibility so far left undiscussed in his chats with Oprah Winfrey and other US media chums is that he might just give up, not only his place in the royal family, but his British citizenship. After all, he loves the California lifestyle and the uncritical press coverage he gets over there. The sun, the polo, the film star friends, the occasional red carpet. With nothing left to lose, why not become a fully fledged American? Curiously, this is exactly the same dilemma which faced his great-great-uncle almost 80 years ago after King Edward VIII quit palace life in 1936 for the love of an American divorcee, and became the Duke of Windsor. The parallels with Harry are well documented. The former king's first year in exile was spent swanning around Europe in the wake of his 1937 marriage to Wallis Simpson, including the notorious trip to Nazi Germany. At the outbreak of war he was given a nominal military role to which he was completely unsuited. So to get him out of the way, he was appointed governor of the Bahamas, a rundown archipelago in the Caribbean very far from the glamorous destination it is today. The only bonus was its proximity to the US mainland, just 200 miles away. And so began the Duke's lifelong love of all things American. Despite strict instructions to stay put at Government House in Nassau during his wartime posting, within 6 months the Duke and Duchess were in Miami, their flimsy excuse being a wonky tooth which needed fixing. 4 months later they were back, again defying orders, this time as guests of the super-rich citizens of Palm Beach, a wartime equivalent of Montecito, that so-called rarefied enclave which currently plays host to Harry and Meghan. One resident of 1940s Palm Beach described it this way: all the men have inherited wealth and none of them work. Most play tennis and golf and go to Colonel Bradley's casino, everyone stays up till 3 or 4 in the morning, nobody goes to bed, they'll go back to someone's house and go swimming and have breakfast. You wouldn't know Teresa wore on, in the Florida resort, the Windsors were snapped up as a prized possession by multimillionaire hostess Jessie Donahue, daughter of F.W. Woolworth, founder of the Five and Dime chain of stores. For the next decade, the Windsors effectively lived off her generosity. That was a lifetime ago. But some things in American society don't change, and that includes the snob appeal of befriending royalty. Harry and Meghan, living the good life in their own version of Palm Beach, can look forward to a similar level of patronage should they choose to stay there. The Duke of Windsor sucked up to rich Americans because of his fear of being poor, and who's to say, if the Windsor Castle cash register clangs shut as the next royal generation tightens its grip, that Harry won't follow suit? But crucially, it's what happened next in the Duke of Windsor's life that Harry should be wary of. In the third year of the Duke's governorship, an explosive story broke in a prominent New York newspaper. It was written by Cornelius Vanderbilt IV, a member of the famous Rich List family who, unlike his idle relations, was an accomplished author, journalist and publisher in his own right. Vanderbilt wrote that had learned from an unimpeachable source that the Duke had tendered his resignation as governor and was attempting to become an American citizen. This was early 1943, when Britain's hopes of winning the war were still very shaky. The Duke's job of ruling the British Protectorate was supposed to last at least until the end of hostilities, and Vanderbilt's words quite understandably sent a chill down the spines of Buckingham Palace and Whitehall officials. It was little short of treason. The reason behind this shattering decision to jump ship, according to Vanderbilt, was because the Duchess hated the heat and the provinciality of the Bahamas and was ready to make a run for it, with or without her husband. The Duke was apparently willing to desert his post, a court-martial offense in times of war. Just as important from the royal family's standpoint, taking U.S. citizenship would be a betrayal of his mighty heritage, a tawdry repudiation of 1,000 years of monarchy in Britain, and a shattering blow to the global reputation of the House of Windsor. America, his decision would signal, is a better place for a royal prince to live than his own country. And despite the enormity of this betrayal, and the fact it had been made public, the temptation to quit remained. The United States, then as now, was a cheaper place to live. Taxes were lower. Just as they are today, petrol was inexpensive, and the cost of everything from a car to a hamburger to a postage stamp was considerably lower. In addition, the personal dilemma the Duke of Windsor faced in 1943 is almost exactly the same as the one Prince Harry faces in 2022. The Duke had believed that after the fuss over his abdication had died down, he'd come back to Britain and live the life of a senior royal, loved and admired as had been in his days as Prince of Wales. Pretty soon he was to discover his brother, now the reluctant King George VI, didn't see it that way. During the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, we saw history repeating itself, with Harry and Meghan returning to Britain to find themselves cold-shouldered by Prince William and other members of the family. Tsar Philip's straight-talking husband Mike Dindal is reported to have described Harry as a B-end. In the 1940s, the Duke of Windsor commented, "What a smug, stinking lot my relatives are." Does Harry, in his California retreat, now feel the same way? Is he ready, like his great-great-uncle, to jump ship? What interested me, as a royal historian, is why the British press never followed up on Cornelius Vanderbilt's historic scoop. Certainly, the writer had the contacts to feed him that sort of high-octane information. His cousin Alice Kiki Preston had been the notorious mistress of the Duke's younger brother, George, Duke of Kent. Another cousin, this time by marriage, was Josephine Foxey Gwynn, one of the Duchess of Windsor's closest friends, who was married to the Earl of Sefton, the Duke's friend and a lord-in-waiting when he was king. Vanderbilt was also close to David Bowes-Lyon, the younger brother of Queen Elizabeth, later to be the Queen Mother. So he knew what he was talking about. But, mired in the depths of war, Britain was never to learn of the Duke of Windsor's planned betrayal. Not a single British newspaper followed up Vanderbilt's scoop. And here's why. In 1912, in the run-up to the First World War, the British government introduced the D-Notice, a gagging system to ensure journalists with access to important information would not endanger national security by publishing it. Editors were told effectively what they could and could not print in the national interest. In 1943, the idea the ex-king could desert his post and abandon his nationality in the midst of war would be colossally damaging to national morale if it ever got out. And so not a word or hint of Vanderbilt's scoop appeared in British newspapers, or in the many biographies of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor that have followed ever since. The story had been killed stone dead. And there it remained buried, until I discovered it was David Bowes-Lyon who told Vanderbilt of the Duke's plan, and why. The story forms the basis of my latest royal novel, Betraying the Crown, written under my pen name T.P. Fielden. Maybe Prince Harry should read it as he weighs up whether to shake off his heritage and start a new life as a U.S. citizen. It might help him make up his mind. Betraying the Crown by T.P. Fielden, Thomas and Mercer, £8.99, is out now. For free UK PNP on orders over £12.99.